Suitcase Sarah struck again. We're going to have to wait a little bit longer before we see this hot mess of a trial happen. And part of it is because even experts don't want to work with her. We're going to talk about all that in today's video. Hello Sofa Squad and welcome back to the sofa. That's the sofa behind me and that's our good little trusty sidekick, Mr. Roscoe P. Coltrane. He's holding it down back there and my name's Paul. Today we're going to be talking about Sarah Boone and her latest prelim hearing. And what we're going to do in this video is we're going to watch a few clips of the preliminary hearing, and then after that we're going to go over the letter that has her most recent letter that she wrote, because some of that is addressed in the prelim hearing. We should technically go about it maybe opposite, but the info in the prelim hearing is just too good to make it wait till the end. So anyways, that's how this video is going to work, and what we'll do is we'll go ahead and start with that first clip.
All right, let's go ahead and call up Miss Boone's case.
State of Florida versus Sarah Boone, 2020 CF 2603. State of Florida.
Danny Cacciatore on behalf of the state.
Defense.
Frank Bankowitz.
Let's go ahead and swear Miss Boone in.
May you please raise your right hand and be sworn in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Morning, ma'am. Tell me your name and your date of birth.
Sarah Boone, October 10th, 1977.
All right, we're here for pretrial conference today.
Now the reason I wanted to put that clip in there is because it's just a really good look at her. She's sporting a real, sporty spats kind of haircut. She looks way better than we saw her last, and by last I mean in the police body cam footage. I'm going to put a picture of her up here. Now I know that was a stressful day, right? I mean, I get that, okay? But nonetheless, she's a little bit more put together, but she is raring to go, as we will learn when we read her letter to the attorney. Let's keep watching.
Mr. Cacciatore, where do you stand in preparing to proceed forward to trial?
State's ready, Your Honor.
Mr. Bankowitz, where do you stand in regards to preparing for trial?
The defense is not ready. We're requesting a continuance. We are having difficult time finding an expert who is willing to work for the JAC rates. And so I'm still, it's an essential part of the case, basically. It's never been initiated before by any of the prior attorneys that I'm aware of.
Okay, now just remember, she has gone through numerous, and I'm talking numerous attorneys, okay? So the fact that this guy's made it this far, my hat's off to him, right? She's apparently a little bit of a difficult client. We'll hear about it more in a second, but they're having trouble finding someone willing to work for these rates, but also there's other components to it, and I don't blame some of these experts because I'm just like, this is a very hot topic case that I wouldn't want to touch either.
In broad terms, what's the nature, what's the field?
Spouse defense.
Okay.
Now we've learned that this was going to be the defense earlier on, and they're still sticking with this. This is going to be a really steep hill to climb for Miss Suitcase Sarah.
How deeply have you plumbed the depths of the pool of experts in this field to find out or find one who's willing to work for the JAC rate?
Well, I've actually talked to three, and but they don't have contracts with JAC and are not willing to work with JAC.
Yeah, even these experts are like, nope. We've seen the videos. We've seen what we needed to see. Okay, we've seen what we needed to see. That's a hard pass.
And I've made some other inroads with battered woman shelters, trying to get their psychologists, who'd be willing. Problem is willing to testify, basically.
Okay. Because of the concern about the compensation rate for testimony?
Well, that's one of the things. And to be honest with you, this case has had so much notoriety that people don't want to be involved.
Okay.
And do you blame him, right? So interesting that he's going to these shelters and whatnot, trying to get people to testify. And even there, it's like, no. Because one thing that's going to be hard to prove is that video. Now, if you're not familiar with the case, Sarah I don't want to say put Jorge George into the suitcase. Obviously, he probably got in there in some way, shape, or form. The problem is that she left him in there and then recorded a video of her cussing at him while he begged and pleaded for her to let him out. Now, there's also evidence that she probably threw this suitcase around, beat him in it, that kind of a thing. So there's all that going on. This is not like a heat of the moment, something was going on, shots were fired to save her life. This was very sinister. And listening to the audio of her voice on the video, I mean, it's evil, right? I mean, there's like not a nice bone in her body during that. So that's where it's going to be really hard to, I think, I see why the defense is having a hard time. And then two, people who are of this and work with women who are truly in these situations, they might be like, yeah, I'm not going to put my name on that. And that sounds like what's happening.
If I could ask of the defense, because I think it would make a difference in the timing of the continuance in this case, does the defense intend to hire an expert to testify generally as to the precepts and the things that go along with battered spouse syndrome, or do they intend to hire an expert that will evaluate Mrs. Boone and want to comment on her directly? And the reason I ask that is because I think the case law is clear that if it's the latter thing, then the state is entitled to have her sit down with our own expert to be evaluated as well. So that would obviously take more time if that is going to be the path they're going to go.
Mr. Bankwitz, are you in a position to distinguish?
Number two is definitely what we're looking at, Judge. Although number one would be incorporated in that as far as their general ability and their expertise in the area.
Would you agree that if in fact you retain an expert and they're going to opine specifically on Ms. Boone's state of mind at the time of the incident, that opens the door for the state to also
most
have an
definitely.
expert? All right.
Most definitely.
So what is interesting to me is we also learn that, yes, the defense is going for two tactics here. A broad definition of battered spouse syndrome, that kind of a thing, but also specifically to Sarah, which then opens the door for the state to use their own experts. Now, I was very surprised to learn that the defense is going to go for basically those two components. That, yes, we're open to the state using their own experts. Now, I have been wrong about stuff before, so, I mean, y'all know me. I always say I'm not a shrink, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not any of that stuff. I'm just a guy with a sofa and a dog and some opinions. I would be very surprised to see if she gains any traction with this defense, and I will not be surprised to find that the state's experts easily rip this to shreds, which is why I'm surprised that they're going for it. Let's continue.
So here's what I am, and Mr. Cashwell, let me ask you this. Let's say that turns out not to be an issue. We're not going to have two experts. How long would it otherwise take you to present your case? Just rough idea.
I would say 3 days.
That's what's better known at the Sofa Squad as open and shut. I was like, 3 days? That's it? They must be very confident about this. But again, if you follow this, you'll know the evidence that they have against her is staggering. Okay? I mean, she basically recorded her crime and confession to it. And the police interview was not a cute look either.
And other than this potential defense, Mr. Bankowitz, and is that including jury selection, Mr. Cacciatore?
No, I probably 3.5 days for jury selection.
All right.
So the fact that jury selection adds a few more days on it to make it maybe one business days worth of a week, or you know what I'm saying, like Monday through Friday or something like that. I'm just like, oh yeah, this is going to be swift justice coming from Miss Suitcase Sarah.
And Mr. Bankowitz, other than this potential defense, if we picked a jury in 1 day, the state presented their case in 2.5 days, how long do you anticipate a defense presentation would be at this point?
I'd say at least 3 days.
again. I was thinking they would be like, well, at least 2 weeks. We've got a mountain of evidence to bring. And it's like, 3 days. You know, okay. I guess Miss Suitcase Sarah is pretty confident about her end of things, too.
That's a 3-week trial period, so it'd be the week starting Monday, July 24th, Monday, July 31st, and then the last week of the trial period would be Monday, August 7th.
I wanted to fall off the sofa when they talked about these dates. I've been gearing the sofa up over there, got my little coffee mug and everything for the April trial. Now, of course, we believe it when we see it with these cases, right? And this is no different. This has gotten dragged on forever and ever. And at the end of it, I mean, justice needs to be brought forth, right? I mean, you watch that video and it baffles me. But so the judge will go back and forth with the defense a little bit about the dates and whatnot because he has other cases in different counties and that type thing. And then we'll learn that the judge is like, look, we're going to keep these dates here because we can't keep dragging this out. And in a minute when we read the letter, we'll kind of see some of Sarah's concerns about it because there are some valid concerns about why is this taking so long. So there we see Miss Sarah sauntering out. Now let's go ahead and look at the letter that she wrote to the attorney and just talk about some aspects of that. Now, as you see here, I've put the letter up on the screen so you can pause to read it if you don't want to hear me read through it. But I will read through it now and I'll stop to make some commentary along the way and then give my overall thoughts at the very end. So it starts off, Mr. Bankowitz, this is my 3rd letter trying to reach you over another almost 6-week period now. The same 2 phone numbers you've given me still underlined do not work. The one number, your personal cell, goes to voicemail directly and doesn't even ring. I've had this number since you personally gave me back in July 2022. Upon your appointment as my attorney by the court. Not working, still 8 months later. Now pause there. See how she writes this sentence? Not working, still 8 months later, and underlines it. This, you can see how she speaks. I can hear her saying this because if you remember back to her interrogation, if you've been following this, or the police interview, when she would talk and she'll be like, not intentional. She would have these like sentence fragments in the way she talks, and it's interesting to see that she even writes this way as well. Now also very interesting is that they pushed this trial out to July, so he would have been on this case for like a year at this point, right? Bless his heart. Let's continue. The other number rings and rings and rings until it automatically disconnects me. Not working either. See, again, there's that whole thing of not intentional. I'm surprised she didn't use not intentional in the damn letter. Let's continue. This also is a number you continuously tells me it just needs to be activated. Please activate. I even, in my desperation to speak with you, had an outside caller try to reach you on my behalf, who tried calling your office 3 times over the last almost 3 weeks, leaving a voicemail each time with no reply. We were both hoping you were able to reply to her email she sent today as another form of trying to communicate with you. I've exhausted my resources and again, just sitting here waiting for you to contact me in whatever way you are able and as soon as possible. Please. Time-sensitive matters are at hand as I have made you aware of previously, verbally, and in my letters. Okay, so just pause for a second. Can you imagine her on the outside if she was ticked off at her man or anyone for that matter, but especially George or her ex-husband or whoever, her child, for God's sakes? Let's not even get into physical harm. Let's talk about emotional and mental abuse. And again, this is just my thoughts, my opinions. I'm just, alleging this. This is just sofa opinions here, okay? I cannot imagine just the tone of this letter alone, let alone the video that we've seen of her trying to justify what she did to poor George. Okay, let's continue. Okay, now let's continue. I have this secondary page here. These were the only 2 I was able to find. So if anyone has like the entirety of the letter here, I would be curious to see it. But these to me at least are the juiciest parts, even though it's all I could find. So let's go on to this page 3 of the letter. My pretrial conference, I found out, is now on 3/31/23, which you said previously, for whatever the reason, I am unable to attend any of these conferences. How am I supposed to know what's going on and what you are reporting and what is being discussed between all other parties except me, the main component in my case? Especially if we, in a still unestablished attorney-client relationship, are not in regular or proper communication with one another. She's giving Letitia Stalk vibes here, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, completely. Let's continue. And we're still in caps lock over here, y'all. If you're watching the screen right now, we're still in caps lock. Why can I not be in attendance and participate in my pretrial conference? How else am I to be kept updated in real time in actual minutes during the conference if not there myself? I have no way of knowing anything if not updated by you, my attorney, and I do not have a computer to use view myself. Can you imagine if she did? My lord, she'd be all over social media. Help me understand, please. How can court TV, different news channels, and even professional YouTubers attend my pretrial conference and I cannot? How? I'm sure one of the other parties can help me with updates, since they all will be in attendance for me also. Should you be unable to provide, why can I not be included in my PTC for my case? I'm sure also everything from the conference collected from everyone else will be vomited all over the internet, just like everything else has been. Non-permissively, not intentional. No, she didn't put that, I had to add that. And can even add more dysfunction and ignorance to my prejudgment already made by the world in the great court of public opinion. I would like to be part of all of this scene as it all pertains to me. Please, it is my right. So many questions, concerns piling and piling up from not being... Okay, and those are the two parts of the letter that I was able to find. She came in hot and she is pissed. Okay, so you know when we saw her sit in the pre-trial conference, she was like, no, I'm ready to rumble, right? And I think that's what she is. I think she's ready to rumble. I want to know what y'all think down in the comment section. First things first. At this point, I think she's 100% testifying. I think she will 100% take the stand. I think she's going to be the type that's like, nope, I'm going to set the record straight. Put me up there. You know, I think this is going to be one of those, right? And it's going to be a you-know-what show. And if judging from everything else, I think that she'll probably just talk herself into prison, right? I mean, come on, Sarah. Now, the one concern that I do have about this, if there is validity to it, is this has gone on so long. Now, mind you, is it his fault she has flipped through so many attorneys? No. But it is kind of like, okay, we're on the eve of trial, and if this is all true of, like, they've not had any conversations, nothing at all, I can understand that frustration, right? Like, all jokes aside, it's like, dude, this is why this keeps getting pushed off, right? Now, I also understand that these attorneys have tons of, clients. Just hearing that he has a death penalty thing coming up, this, that, and the other, so I get it all. But it is of concern of, okay, we're pushing this off again, and, now we're here, so... Anyways, be prepared for some dramatics from this one, okay? It's probably good that it will be short because I don't know if we can handle it in addition to Lori and Letitia, the West case. I mean, all these things going on right now, right? I'm just like, oh my God. If they need to push this off, of course we want to see justice come and justice come swiftly. But, we need to make sure it happens, right? Because 100%, if she gets convicted on this, y'all know she's clogging the courtroom up for years to come with appeals, right? I mean, it's just what it is. Anyways, let me know what you think down below. Do you think she's going to testify? Do you think she's going to take the stand? Like I said, I do. I'm curious to know what you think. And if you're still watching, drop hearts down in the comment section for all the victims. I do appreciate it. And until we gather around all those candles back there next time, I'll see y'all soon.